Hello everyone, and welcome to a Flightline tutorial. Today we're going to be covering the Flightplan updates that recently dropped for Flightline. So we're going to be covering a few topics today in today's video. So the first topic will be how to create a flight plan, where to find the map of waypoints, what does the flight director do, how to use the autopilot to follow your flight plan, and how to use the approach mode. So, I'm currently in the Flightline main menu here. I'm going to go ahead and click to start flying. And today I'm going to be using the 737 with the gold livery, as it's a new livery. And here's where we can start our flight plan. So I'm going to be starting off at Tophon. I'm going to go ahead and create a new flight plan. Now this menu kind of thing here will open up. And now I'm going to cover where you can find the map of the waypoints currently in Flightline, as that is what you'll need to be able to make your flight plan. So in our Discord we have a channel called Flight Resources. In that channel, if you look for anything that's labelled ERC High or ERC Low, that will be a map of all of the waypoints and their locations, as well as different headings that you can take to reach their nearby waypoints. And that is what I'm going to be using for this tutorial, to pick the waypoints I want to use to get to my destination, which will be Delaware or JKDX. So the first waypoint I'm going to be choosing, as I'm going to be departing off the 27 right runway, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom as these are alphabetically ordered to Xerxes. Now here you see you have two different labels. You have 10,000 feet and 250 knots, or 250 knots. This is the altitude the autopilot will try and maintain try to reach before reaching that waypoint, and this is the speed that the autopilot will also try and maintain. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to something like 4,000 feet, as this will be a short flight, and I'll leave that at 250 knots. If you want to add another waypoint, then just hover over this and press the plus button. Now see it says revise flight plan. That's because you've not input a waypoint, so that autopilot won't really know what to do. And it also says set waypoint here, so we click on it and can choose. And it also will suggest waypoints that are near Xerxes, but you can also go ahead and select any of the other ones as well. These are just suggestions, but I'm going to choose the Heckler waypoint. And here I'm going to go ahead and put 2000. And I'll put 220 in there. Now if you wanted only the autopilot to only go to the waypoint and not change anything about its current altitude or speed, then these bars here mean the same as the above waypoint. If I wanted just to still maintain 4,000, I could just put in 4,000 again, and it will change these two bars, so it will still maintain 4,000. So I'll go ahead and put that back to 2,000 feet. So these are only two waypoints that I'm going to be using for my flight plan. However, I also want the autopilot to automatically do an approach to runway 36 right in Delaware. So if you want to do the same for some of the other runways, then you'll come down to this third box here, or whatever one is the last box on your flight plan, where it says then maintain and current heading. and you'll come over to here and you'll press the APPR or approach button. Do not press this, as it will just add another waypoint before it. I'll get rid of that. So just press the APPR and you'll see that it goes white. And the text now changed to then approach and set runway. I'm going to go ahead and choose JKDX 36 right. So, as you can see here, we've currently got track 265. That is a heading that the water pilot will take to get to Heckler. And you can also see that here it says current heading. So after the water pilot reaches Heckler, it will just maintain the 265, unless we tell it otherwise here. Now we want to intercept the localizer for 36 right after we've reached Heckler. However, with the heading of 265, that's more than a 90-degree angle to the localizer. So we're going to want to change this heading. So I'll go ahead and put in heading 300 or 300. I'm also going to go ahead and change the speed to something like 150. So, as I just said, I'll go over it again. After we reach Heckler, the autopilot will then want to intercept the localizer or the ILS for 36 right at JKDX. However, 265 is more than 90 degrees. Will be a greater than 90 degrees. So the autopilot will not be able to intercept the localizer for 36 right. So we need to make that heading. We need to make that gap smaller. So we need to go to a heading of around 300 once we hit waypoint Heckler, and the autopilot will do that automatically. So once you are happy with your flight plan, you can come down here and hit execute. Now if you want to edit your flight plan, once you press execute, you can go ahead and press edit current flight plan. You can change any of the values or add another waypoint, and press execute again. Or if you don't like the changes, then you just press discard changes. This menu will pop up and you just click yes. So I'm going to go ahead and spawn in here, and I'll meet you guys at the runway. So we're now currently at runway 27 right. So before we take off, I'm going to I just want to go through a couple of things first. So you'll see how at the top of the screen here on the speed tape and the altimeter, you have 250 and 4000. These are the restrictions that we set in on the flight plan. And the autopilot, once we engage it, will aim to maintain these. And these will automatically change once we reach certain waypoints as set in the flight plan. Now I also want to talk about the flight director, which is this button here. So if you press it, you'll see it all light up. However, you'll see that nothing actually changes unless we go into the cockpit here, and you see these two lines here that are currently kind of shaking about a bit, going crazy. As they're on the ground, they don't really know what to do once they're on the ground. So I should go ahead and take off here, and I'll explain what the flight directors do. So now we're at airborne. I'll switch to mount cam here. As you can see, we've also got the purple lines here as well. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that these are kind of in the cross formation, like that. That way you know that you're on the appropriate flight path for your flight plan. So as you can see here, if I maintain these, I'll fly perfectly towards Xerxes, as well as I'll be on a good climb. I'll be on a good climb path to reach 4000 by Xerxes. And the autopilot will also maintain this as well. If I go ahead and enable autopilot and auto throttle here, the autopilot automatically maintains the cross formation of the flight director. So if these are in a cross, you know you're going in the right direction and maintaining a good climb path, or you're maintaining altitude properly. So we be at 4,000 by Xerxes, which I believe we should be. And once we get Xerxes, we should also descend down to 2,000 feet and reduce our speed to, I believe I put in 220 knots. Okay, so we didn't quite reach 4,000 feet. But that's not a problem because the plane will just automatically descend back down to 2,000. And the plane has automatically reduced to 220 knots. So if you remember, Heckler was the last waypoint on our flight plan. And after that we're going to be trying to do the ILS for 36 right at Delarue. And once we reach Heckler, the plane should turn to heading of 300 to intercept the ILS for 36 right. So if you look on the mini-map here, or the nav map down here, you can see that we also have Heckler now named on the nav map. And we also have the distance to it as well, currently in kilometers, and that should be in nautical miles, but that's fine. And once we reach Heckler here, we should see it turn to JKDX 36 right, showing us that we will be starting the approach for 36 right. Now I have noticed a slight problem with the plane doing the approach automatically, is that for some reason it tends to sit below the glide slope, which is this horizontal line here. Normally you'd want these two lines to be in a cross formation like you would with the flight director. However, normally the glide slope is around halfway between the first dot here and the second dot here. However, that's not too big of an issue as you still do make it to the runway. So as you can see here, the plane is now turned to a heading of 300 to intercept the localizer for 36 right. As you can see here, the plane is now reduced to 150 knots, as I set in the flight plan. Overall, I always hope the flight plan works pretty well. There are a few things missing that I would personally like to see, such as manual overrides when it's in managed mode. However, it's fine for now. So, speaking of, you can see that all of these values now have actually numbers in them, whereas when it was managed, these did not have numbers in them. That's because we've technically reached the end of our flight plan, so we now have manual control over all of these. But you also see that we have the approach armed. That's because we have the ILS selected here, and we also have the nav flight plan button on. I believe if we didn't have this selected, that this would not be armed, so it would just fly straight through the localizer and the glide slope. So make sure when you're trying to do the approach, you do have the ILS selected. So now, if you want actually on a heading to intercept the localizer, you could actually change it here. So if I wanted to change this, I could change it to 320 if I wanted to, but I'll leave it at 300. And if you were, say, that you're above the glide, then you could reduce the altitude if you wanted to, and you can also have manual control over the speed. And now we just wait to intercept the approach, which the plane is actually now doing. As the localizer comes across here, you'll see that the plane will try and maintain it in the centre. However, as we're quite far out still, the plane will probably have a bit of trouble doing that, as the localizer typically becomes more accurate the closer you are to it. So as you can see, it is now capturing the localizer. Probably could have had a better heading to capture the localizer on, such as heading of 320. That probably would have worked better. However, it still managed to capture, so it's fine. And you'll see once we start to intercept the glide slope here, that this bar will come down, and the plane will also go down with it to maintain the correct flight path or the correct descent out angle to go down to the runway. So as you can see, you can just barely see the runway lights of 36 left and 36 right for the fog. This is actually perfect conditions for when you would use the auto approach, when it's very difficult to see the runway. The plane can just fly the approach for you using the ILS system. And soon here we should see that the bar will start coming down for the glide slope as we get close to the runway. Still got currently 12 kilometers out. As you can see, as I said, we now have JKDX at 36 right showing up here. And there we go, now intercepted the glide slope, and the plane will hopefully maintain the glide slope. I'm going to go ahead and put gear down. As you can see, it does sit just below the glide slope there, which is kind of strange. However, you will still obviously reach the runway perfectly fine. The mates for some reason land a bit short, but you can always take over manually, which is what I'll be doing, and which is what I recommend doing. As common misconception is that the approach mode does automatically land for you, which is not the case. I'm going to go ahead and put full flaps. I'm going to go ahead and reduce the speed to around 135 knots. Let's say a good approach speed. Surprisingly, it's actually maintaining the glide slope better than it did the first time that I tested this. So that's good to see. And also, as you can see, now I've captured the localizer and the glide slope, the altitude and heading have now gone into managed mode. So you cannot change these as it is following the glide slope and the localizer. As you can see, we're not actually perfectly straight. This is because we have slight winds. So the plane is actually accounting for that. Which is actually very good to see. Otherwise, if we were just straight, you would slowly be blown further to the left of the runway, which isn't really what you want.
300.
So around 200 feet, I'll go ahead and disconnect the autopilot.
200.
And the auto throttle. Now here you can just follow the
100.
flight director, and it should bring you down to the
50,
runway.
40, 30, 20, 10.
So as you can see there, the auto approach is actually very good at what it does. You just have to make sure that you actually do it properly. And you actually make sure that you're on a correct heading to intercept the localizer. And the plane will do the rest from there. So that is the end of the tutorial. We've covered all the topics that I said we would in the start of the video. If you guys do have any questions, and please do let me know, I'll be happy to answer them. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you maybe in the next tutorial if I actually do another one.